It's time to rev your engines. The Syracuse Nationals proudly presents the Cavalcade of Cars, March 22nd through 23rd at the New York State Fairgrounds. The two-day indoor car show features all the classics, plus lifted trucks, Jeeps, motorcycles, and more. Cavalcade of Cars, CNY.com.
Bridgeport, ESPN Radio. This is the Burdick Ford and Burdick Toyota pregame show.
All right, back at it here. Brad gets with you, getting you ready for Cuse and NC State tonight in a game of great importance to the back end of the ACC standings this year, and a direct reflection on the potential availability of Syracuse for the ACC tournament. Will they qualify? A win tonight? And the answer is not officially yes, but puts it definitely in the most likely category. A loss tonight, and my oh my, things get very, very intriguing in certainly the ways that you don't want things to get intriguing coming up over the course of the next few weeks. 4 games left in the regular season here. We got NC State tonight. Orange are on the road, nooner at Virginia Tech, Castle Coliseum on Saturday. I'll have pregame for you on Saturday. Jordan's got postgame for you. Next Tuesday, the Orange will be in Dallas, a 9 o'clock tip for Syracuse and SMU. And then a week from Saturday in the Dome, it's an 8 o'clock tip for the Orange and Virginia in a game that, depending on what happens tonight, and certainly the next 2 games, but tonight, I would presume more pressingly, that game on Saturday potentially could be, Syracuse and Virginia are just a game apart in the ACC standings right now. Virginia 5 wins or 6 wins, Syracuse 5, so that could be for something. NC State tonight is 4 wins. They're right there. Cal's got 5, a team Syracuse has a win over. BC sitting at 4. The Orange swept them this season, so there's a cluster here. So depending on what happens tonight, it will definitely depend on what happens in that Virginia game coming up in a week and a half's time. What's going to happen if Syracuse makes the ACC tournament, where they're seated, where they'd be, when and where they'd be playing potentially 2 weeks from yesterday in the first round of the ACC tournament down in Charlotte. All of that good stuff to sort out. As far as our coverage tonight, I've got you up until 7 o'clock in tip time in the Dome. The broadcast getting you ready for that game, and the play-by-play calls over on TK99, ESPN 1200. Matt Park, Jim Settle, and Paulie's at the Dome as well for that. Television tonight is ESPNU. Post-game show tonight right here on the radio, right here on QSportsTalk.com. Tim Leonard, your host, and we've got a whole thing going on. Normally, as you know, Monday, 11 o'clock during this season is Atan and Devo. Well, Devo was doing a game. He was in Pittsburgh last night. He was traveling, blah, blah, blah. You don't care about all that. There was a lot of logistical things. Atan and Devo are joining postgame tonight with Tim, with your calls, with Adrian Autry's postgame press conference. It's going to be, we are blowing out the biggest bubble game in the history of the ACC conference as far as making the ACC tournament. Like, coverage wall-to-wall. We got that tonight with Tim, Atan, and Devo after the game. So with that, we get in here too tonight. Syracuse comes in stumbling. The Orange have won 5 games in the league. They're 5-11 in the league. NC State's 4-12. Both teams are 11-16. There are no illusions about what this is tonight. Syracuse comes in having lost 7 of 9. NC State, on the other hand, while still winless on the road this season, they're 0-8. They did at home on Saturday beat Wake Forest by the score of 85-73, without question the best win of the season for NC State, and a potentially damaging one for a bubble team in Wake Forest this past Saturday. NC State has won 2 of 3. I don't want to say they're hot, but 2 of 3, it is half of their league wins have come from the last week and a half. So that's what the Wolfpack are bringing to the Dome tonight. Syracuse had their bye weekend this past weekend. Hopefully, a little time away, freshen things up, rested, recovered, all that jazz. We'll see how that gets going tonight. If the Orange come out, ready and raring. If they come out rusty, I don't know. We'll find that out in about an hour tonight in the Dome. But it was last Tuesday. Syracuse is down in Pittsburgh. Syracuse had a 22-6 lead. Then the rest of the game happened. The 22-6 lead early in the game, turned into a 41-34 lead, a 7-point lead at the half. Turned into it slides away, it slides away, it slides away. Turned into a Pittsburgh 80-69 win over the Orange 8 days ago at the Peterson Event Center. It was a game that it was real strange. On one hand, Syracuse made a season-high 14 three-pointers. 9 of 16 in the first half. On the other hand, they went cold in the second half. 5 of 17 beyond the arc after halftime. And JJ looked worn down a little bit. His shot was errant in the second half for sure. 5 turnovers in the game, 3 of 11 from 3. It was another game in which the lack of rim protection that has been present all season certainly reared its ugly head. Is certainly after halftime. Pitt got inside time and time and time and time again. The perimeter defense wasn't stopping anybody off the bounce. And once the comeback started for Pitt, the whole thing kind of took on an air of inevitability. Once it slid away, it never quite felt like the Orange could grasp it again. It felt inevitable, and it ended up being inevitable last Tuesday when Syracuse was on the road at Pittsburgh. So is there carryover from that? Obviously, Pitt's better than NC State, though Pitt has been struggling of late as well. They've kind of fallen away from NCAA tournament positioning, which it looked like they had early in the season, as the ACC is scrambling right now to find even a fourth team that will have a chance to go play in March Madness this year after the likes of Duke and Louisville and Clemson. Could it be SMU, who Syracuse plays next week? Could Wake Forest hang in there? Could somebody make a crazy run like NC State did in the ACC tournament last year? All questions to find out here over the course of the next 3 weeks as we advance toward the 2025 NCAA tournament. Let's get a little Red from, we've heard from him several times after, but I always like to capture the post-game emotion in all of it. Here's Red on kind of where things fell apart on last Tuesday against Pittsburgh.
I thought offensively, we got a lot of good shots in the second half. We couldn't make them. I thought we got a lot of good looks. And that's what we talk about why defense is so important. When you get those good looks and you're not making them, like, you got to be able to have your defense there.
And it's another game. We talk about the full 40 minutes. Red didn't sense that happened last time.
I thought the guys, battled for about, 27, 28 minutes, but it's a 40-minute game.
That was a game, we talk about effort. We talk about, has the team quit or any of this. It looked like last game down the stretch, whatever it was, it looked like they ran out of gas in the last, 5, 6, 7, 8 minutes. Kind of, Pitt caught up, Pitt pulled away, and it was like the air went out of the balloon last game for sure. We'll see if it gets refilled here a little bit today. Red looking back at last game. He was not a long speaker in his post-game press conference last game. And you look at turnovers. Turnovers has been a significant issue for Syracuse this year. The Orange are second to last in the league in both turnovers committed and turnover margin. NC State, if you want to be concerned about something, is good at that. They are second in the league, not second to last in the league, in being good at turnover margin. They have a positive turnover margin. Syracuse has a negative turnover margin. That was something that certainly cost the Orange last time out against Pittsburgh.
I just thought we went through a spell in the second half where, when the game started going back and forth, that's when our turnovers, some costly turnovers, empty possessions, where we talk about just entering the ball in. No one practices those. We make those. We just make those mistakes that, sometimes you just kind of a head scratcher.
I go back to mid-December. When JJ was out, there was that spell of 3 games in a row, kind of centered around the Maryland game, that Syracuse turned it over. What was it? It was like 60 total times in 3 games. It was an asinine number of turnovers. That's when Syracuse was just hemorrhaging the ball in crazy volume. It's not necessarily that of late. It's not like, oh my God, that's a ton of turnovers. But it feels like in all of these recent Orange losses, there is like a 4 or 5 minute stretch, and it generally seems to come early midway through the second half, where the Orange have been doing all right with it. But then it's just like 4 or 5 possessions in a row, and you're like, what just happened? So that'll be vitally important tonight. Can the Orange avoid that stretch of, and a lot of times it's not it getting taken away, it is being given away. Can the Orange avoid that stretch of just errant basketball tonight and, handing it to the Wolfpack for a 5-10-minute stretch of the game. I don't think it'll be something to seriously keep an eye on. That, and it's a lot on the simple stuff. It's a lot on the simple stuff.
We were around the rim. We just couldn't finish. I don't know, what else, to do, as far as that. We got to go up strong. You got to shot fake, got to get into people.
Yeah, and a little more from Red here on the idea of the plentiful turnovers last time out.
These are not, like, difficult turnovers. These are, like, trying to throw the ball into the post. Like, I don't get it. We just turn it over, or we just get the ball and someone takes it out of our hand, So those are the turnovers that kind of are very frustrating.
One last thing from Red from last game on JJ, who had the huge early start to the game, and it just looked like he wore down perhaps down the stretch.
I still thought we had control of it. I still thought we had, we got the shots that we wanted. We got the shots that we wanted, and we just didn't make them. I think JJ had about 4 or 5 open looks. They didn't go in. That happens, and that's why the defense is so important. And we just, we've struggled in that area this year defensively. That hurt us again today.
All right, so a little bit of Red from last Tuesday after Syracuse's 11-point loss from 16 up early on the road at Pittsburgh. With that, we'll step aside for a few. Phone lines open rest of the hour if you'd like to chime in pregame today. 315-437-7644 for ESPN 44. Phone's always available to you. You guys know that. When we come back as well, we'll take a little listen into some of the stuff Atan Thomas said today to Stephen Pauly on Orange Nation. Atan will be part of our postgame coverage tonight. All that when we come back on our Burdick pregame show tonight, getting you ready for Cuse, NC State, just past 7 o'clock in the Dome this evening. It's Cuse Sports Talk and ESPN Radio. Oh, chat. It matters, the Wheeze. Oh, Gino loves that record, Gavendo. It is a separate event, yes, Poppy. It's not OT in the hourly sense, but yeah, the check will cash for it. I don't know, Florida guy. I think part of it is the forum. I think Red is better at that stuff, not, in interview settings, but... Like Jerry is a much more polished public speaker. That is never in doubt. No, I need to re-follow up on that, San Diego Cuse. In the script. It's good news. What's up, KPP Stash? Yeah, I'll be interested to see how they handle that, Cuse Sports knower. It would be nice if they had a little more budget to flush that stuff out. It's right in your name. You are a Cuse sports knower. Yeah, I wonder what the vibes are going to be like in their tea takes tonight. That's what I was saying earlier. Like, this is like a big game that's not a big game. Like, is it going to feel anything like it in the Dome? Point two. Yeah. I bet they'd even toss in a fourth season ticket for that Cuse Sports North.
Toyota pregame show.
That it is. Brian Higgins back at it with you. 45 minutes away from tip time today inside the Dome. Lots to get to still. We'll look back at the recent series history between Syracuse and NC State. Just looking back at last year's games, all three of them will be nutty enough. The Chris Bell experience in full fashion over the course of the last year. When you look at these two teams playing three games, with the Orange winning twice in the regular season, and then losing to NC State as part of the early stages of their 9 straight wins en route to the Final Four last year. And the Syracuse game was game 2 of that run that began in the ACC tournament last year, winning 5 straight to win the league title, and 4 more in a row, improbably, to make the Final Four and earn Kevin Keatts a contract extension a year ago. Well, right now, let's do a little of this. Let's check in with Atan Thomas, who's going to be on the post-game show tonight. His regular weekly visit with Steve and Paulie on Orange Nation occurred earlier today. Looking back, looking ahead, conversations about the state of the program. Here was Atan earlier this afternoon with Steve and Paulie.
You know, some fans, I think, are uncomfortable with us calling this a big game tonight. You're aware of the standings and what this game could mean, or, as it pertains to the ACC tournament. You win this game, you're probably going. You lose this game, and then you're certainly sweating it out here down the stretch. Do you look at tonight as a big game?
Yeah, it's a big game. I mean, let's be honest. This has been a difficult season this year, but we want to make the ACC tournament. That is something that we want to do. So not making the ACC tournament would be very bad. So yes, this is a very big game. It's kind of the battle of the bottom 3 of the ACC. So like you said, if we lose this game, we're probably not going to go. If we win this game, our chances are still alive. So yes, this is a huge game. Now, I mean, nobody wants to be in this position that we're in, but this is the position that we're in. So yes, it's a big game.
I led off the show by saying this is a terrible position for Syracuse basketball to be in, but they can never be in this position again. Do you agree with that statement?
Of course.
Like you're Syracuse.
Nobody wants us to be competing for, hoping to make the ACC tournament. No, we don't want to be in this position ever again. This is a terrible position to be in, but this is where we are. So what do people want? Them to just give up? Just to quit? Just to say, all right, we don't want to play anymore. Let's just mail it in. No, nobody wants to do that. And the coaches have been reiterating, the players have been reiterating that we're not going to quit. There is no quit in us. Coach Griff, he had a great interview where he said no. I think he was responding to a fan that was maybe said something like that, and he was like, no, we're not. That's not even the notion of us quitting is a possibility. So no, nobody wants that. You want guys to keep fighting, and that's what they're doing.
The the comment, the topic came up earlier in the show about, maybe some fans have turned the page on this season and they don't really care about what happens tonight or the rest of the way, that, it's been a failure of a season no matter what, and they're already looking ahead at next year. And the topic came up that the players don't care as much either, or might not care as much either, because they're getting paid now. What do you think about that? And you kind of alluded to it right there based on what you're hearing. Do you think NIL will make, and I'm not saying like Syracuse in general, but do you think that NIL will make college basketball players or college football players that are in a similar situation like this, where the season didn't go the way that they wanted to, do you think it will make them care less about the wins and losses and whether they go to a certain postseason tournament or make a certain playoff or that kind of thing?
If the players have shown any type of a hint that they do not care, then you can ask those questions. But they haven't done that. So it's kind of a moot point. You know what I mean? The players have every single game, every single post game, win or lose, they're into it. They hurt when they lose. You know what I mean? And coaches are upset when we lose. And that's the general atmosphere. Nobody is just mailing it in. Now there are ways where you can very easily see if they're not interested anymore. But nobody can accuse any of our players of feeling that way or expressing it or even exhibiting it in any way. So no, I would reject that notion completely.
I was in the locker room after the last game, the Pitt game, and it was downtrodden. It was a bunch of guys that you could tell cared, because it looked like Syracuse locker rooms after NCAA tournament losses. There was crying. There was people upset. Can could a loss like that cause the team to completely go in the tank after, you finally think you clicked and it completely goes off the rails?
So players don't have the same mentality that fans have. So we have to stop equating the two. Fans have been ready to do away with this team for a long time. Fans are saying that, okay, this is a wash of a season. Let's just look towards next year, like everything that you said before, right? The players haven't said that. The players haven't exhibited, so we can't keep making that, comparison. They don't compare. The players are still into it. Yes, every loss hurts. Doesn't mean you're just going to give up and quit for the whole season because you had a tough loss. Tough loss is a part of the game. But no, they want to win and they want to keep playing, and that's what they've repeated, over and over again.
Do you think this team has improved? Are you seeing signs of improvement a ton? And if so, what areas have you seen maybe some growth in? And I know it's probably hard because, the roster has changed, the starting lineup's changed so much this year, but are you seeing growth in certain areas?
Well, it's hard to really, quantify growth when you're losing. It really is. Like I'll say that Chris Bell had a good game and he shot the ball well and he hit 7 threes and, everything like that, but we lost the game. So it's kind of hard. I'll say that, Lampkin had 18, 19 rebounds and, he played well the whole time and he was battling and, he played an unbelievable amount of minutes and everything like that, but we lost the game. So it's hard to really quantify that. You know what I mean? It's a tough question.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That brings up another point that we were talking about yesterday about, the biggest priority in the offseason. We were talking about, the need of a point guard, and we were talking about the need for rim protection. You obviously could speak to the latter, right? I mean, rim protection was a big part of your job and what you brought to the team. This particular squad obviously does not have that. Can you speak to that, Atan? How important it is to have that last line of defense and how that can kind of be a game changer for teams, why it's so important and why this team lacks it and misses it?
Well, we do have somebody that's 7'3", 7'4" on the roster that could be a rim protector. But I mean, it is tough and the game is different. So, you have more shooters now. So it's kind of hard to really sit in the 2-3 zone. You even saw with Coach Boeheim kind of changing the zone and shifting it a little bit there in the latter years, where they would have the center run out to the corner. I wasn't really a huge fan of that, but they would have Jesse running out in the corner on one side, challenging the three, because you have more guys that can shoot the three. But yeah, I do think having a rim protector is of the utmost. It's really important because when the guards. I'm not going to say don't do their job, but when the defensive assignment is missed, I'll say it that way, and a player does get by a guard, the last line of defense is the big man, is the rim protector. And, being able to rely on somebody that can protect the rim is really invaluable So I would definitely say that rim protectors are still very important in the game.
Todd, someone is calling me out for something I just said in a question.
Uh-oh.
And I want to ask you about it as a former college player.
Okay.
There were players that were emotional after that Pitt loss.
Okay.
Can you speak to maybe a loss where this season has to wear on a 20-year-old kid, and can you recall times where you got emotional after losses, or even in the pros where like this is your life and you're putting all your effort into it, it's just not working?
Of course. Every player has had that. I mean, there's times where different teammates have almost wanted to go to blows because they're so upset after a loss, and the emotions are high. This is an emotional game. But I don't understand the question. So is the issue with what you...
Somebody would be so emotional. Like Judah, I'm not speaking of school now. Judah Mintz used to cry out after almost every loss. He hated losing. Right. Like, are you shocked by a statement that the players were that upset by losing, especially being up 16?
No, not at all. You know what I mean? There's people don't understand that as a player, you want to win and you give your all, and you are going to be emotional at times. That's what happens. So the caller or the person that is referring online, he's shocked that the players did have that reaction. That's what you're saying. Oh, okay, no. Then he hasn't seen
that there's tears in the locker room.
No. That happens all the time. I mean, players are getting upset and everything like that because they put their all into it. That's normal. You know what I mean? That happens.
All right, a little a ton with Stephen Pauly from earlier today. We'll see if anyone's weepy after this one tonight with so much on the line. Though the weirdest, I was talking about this earlier with what's on the line for this game tonight. Like in previous years in the ACC, when everyone made the conference tournament, if Syracuse and NC State were playing tonight, there'd be nothing on the line. Yeah, could it determine your seeding at the back end of the tournament? Yeah. Would it matter at all in the grand scheme of anything? No. It would just be a game that happened and you all move on. Tonight, does it matter to Duke? No. Does this game matter to Louisville? No. Does it matter to Clemson? No. Does it matter to anyone at the top of the league? Absolutely not. But as far as Syracuse and Wake Forest tonight, that's why I'm so intrigued to see like what kind of energy are we going to see out there? Is there going to be a vibe? And we're hearing from people in the chat that are at the game or on their way to the game that let's just say they didn't get stuck in traffic today on their way up to the Dome. So I don't know what kind of vibe or energy is going to be there from the crowd at all tonight. I mean, the people that are there will certainly care, and we'll see if they get into it, and it goes over the course of the game. I really do wonder like what it's going to be, because it's a big game that's not a big game that's an important game that isn't all simultaneously. And thus is life in an 18-team league where only 15 teams make the conference tournament, and the teams playing each other tonight are in 15th and 16th place right now. I guess Syracuse is in a tie for 14th and has the tiebreaker, but yeah, they're not in a great spot right now. But a vitally important game tonight for if Syracuse or NC State's going to make the ACC tournament. Realistically, looking at the standings right now, like Miami's going to miss the tournament. Boston College and NC State, if season ended today, would miss the tournament, and Syracuse and Cal would make it. Realistically, out of NC State, BC, Cal, and Syracuse, realistically, there are some other crazy things that can happen. Realistically, 2 of those 4 teams are making the ACC tournament, and the other 2 are not. Cal and BC play, is it this weekend or next week? They play, I think it's this weekend, coming up as BC's making its West Coast trip this week. So there's a lot of stuff going on. With that, we'll take a break here, halfway done with our pregame coverage. If you'd like to chime in, you may, 315-437-7644 for ESPN 44. We will also examine some of the recent history between Syracuse and NC State when we come back, and see if we can get any insight to Elijah Moore's status for the game tonight with our injury report. All that as we move along here on this Wednesday. It's Cuse Sports Talk and ESPN Radio. Yes, who is the best worst? The worst best. No ESPNU, Florida guy? You don't got the U? I'm sorry to hear that. Oh, man. Maybe one of these days, Q Sports Knower. On this day, Brian's going home when the pregame show is over. You forgot LA Orange. This is literally the pregame show. How could you? How could you? Of course, Q Sports Knower. What happened here? Did I lose the YouTube chat? It says it's still here. We will, in theory, be talking to JJ again tomorrow, Tronic. Brought to you by RomanoCars.com. He'll text me back. I'm sure of it. I think we're on the CW Saturday, Spatch and Louise, so don't... One of these games coming up's on the CW. So don't cast us off that yet. Hang on. Which game is it? Saturday? Yeah. Thank you, Frank. It is an 11 a.m. Central game. I will be on at 11 a.m. Eastern on Saturday, but that's more for a pregame situation. I don't know what you're talking about, San Diego Cuse. We love JJ Starling. We love everybody. What do we got to you tonight? Oh, wait, where are we? Scrolling. Yeah, we got the U tonight. CW Saturday. Big boy ESPN at 9 o'clock in Dallas on Tuesday. And then we're ACC Network for Virginia. The good news is that we're the first game of like the CW quintuple header or whatever the hell they got this Saturday. So it's good to be first in the CW thing so the beginning of your game is not missed. Up to 3 now? Oh, is that because they do? What's the third? Or is the Rumble there? Or did they move a big one there? What happened? Or did they make up another one?
The Burdick Ford and Burdick Toyota pregame show.
That it is. If you'd like to chime in, 315-437-7644. We are about half hour out from Cuse and NC State tonight inside the Dome. So we'll see what's going on with this weirdly important game, the biggest bubble game in the history of the tournament that may get surpassed in coming days. But at least for today, it's a It's a big one. All right. We can now, and I'm not really surprised by that. If you were with us about hour 20 ago, our weekly chat with Alan Griffin, he said it would be a game time decision for Elijah Moore tonight. But in reading between the lines, I was reasonably certain the answer would be no on that game time decision. And in our Harding and Mazzetti injury report, multiple people from the Dome, anyone in the Dome that's looking his way, is saying that Elijah Moore is out for today's game. He is in the street clothes. I've been working on a toe issue, not warming up, so no Choppa tonight for the Orange. Red on Monday was asked about it in his ACC teleconference, and he basically said on Monday that he wasn't expecting him to practice Monday. He was hoping to hear something soon, so this drags out again. Will this turn into another Donnie Freeman-esque waiting situation? Hard to say. We'll see if Choppa gets back out there on Saturday for Virginia Tech, but time is running short. Time is running short for that. So no Eddie. No Choppa Moore. The reports from the chat that Eddie Lampkin is not on the floor warming up. So should we be alarmed? I don't know. I would assume that Eddie Lampkin will be available for the game tonight, but we will freak out as necessary in the next few minutes if Eddie is randomly not there. But all right, we'll freak out if we need to. But for now, just Choppa Moore. Haven't really heard anything officially about Lampkin. What I can tell you officially is that this day in Syracuse basketball history is brought to you by the Shep Family Funeral Home. Celebrate your loved one with help from Shep. Visit shepfamily.com. All-time series, most of them coming here in the last decade or so, is Syracuse 14 wins and NC State 7. Syracuse had been on a heater. They'd won 7 in a row in this series until the ACC tournament last year, a game that NC State won. There have been randomly a lot of really memorable games. The John Gillen game down there. It's been some crazy games for Syracuse and NC State over the years. Last year's series was kind of wild. So they basically played every month for 3 straight months. 27th of January in the Dome. Final score 77-65 Cuse. Good game. J.J. Starling had a monster game in that. There's pictures on the internet of Eddie Lampkin warming up. So he's just, he's doing what maybe he had to go potty. You never know. Lampkin's playing tonight, so don't worry about that. Not Elijah Moore. Back to last year. J.J. had the big game in the first meeting. Chris Bell was solid, 3 of 6 from 3, 13 points. J.J. had 26 to offset DJ Horn's game of 15 for NC State, and the Orange won it by 12. So a month later, the 20th of February, Syracuse is in Raleigh. Wild game. 87-83 Cuse was the final. We all remember the first half because Chris Bell, in the first half of that game, was 8 of 10 from 3 and had 26 points at halftime. It was craziness in that game down in Raleigh last year, what Bell did in the first half. And then the second half happened. Obviously, the defensive tactics for NC State changed at halftime to never leave Chris Bell's side. The score at halftime of that game was 55-40. Syracuse is up. NC State roared all the way back in the game, but it was Quadir Copeland who had the big second half of that game. He ended up with 25 points in the game last year, and the Orange held on to win in a game that DJ Horn went nuts after halftime. He had 32 points in that game. Bell, 26, Copeland, 25, and the Orange won it 87-83. We arrive at the ACC tournament. Syracuse had the single bye. NC State was playing on day one, and the whole talk of that was Kevin Keatts was coaching for his job at the time. Just a real sluggish game in the first day of the tournament. NC State got through it. They got to game 2, and all of a sudden it was like, who is this team? At the time, viewing it through the Syracuse lens, it was like, oh, man, what a disappointing loss. And it turned out to be the end of the season for Syracuse. Last game for Judah Mintz and all those guys who left and yada, yada, yada. But NC State blew the doors off of Syracuse in that ACC tournament game last year. 83-65 was the final score. And considering Syracuse had won the the first two games of the season, it was shocking how it went down. Well, it's really hard to beat a team 3 times in one season. To that, I say. But that was a close game at the half. The Orange were down just 3, ended up giving up 48 points in the second half and getting run off the floor in that game. It was a very balanced game offensively for NC State. That was also a game in which Chris Bell got into foul trouble. He played just 21 minutes and fouled out. He had been such a big factor in the first 2 games. He ended up with 11 points, but only got to attempt 5 3-point shots, made 3 in that game after making the 8 in Raleigh a month before that. Judah had a big game, 21 points. Nobody else really went off. JJ in that game struggled, just 9 points in that one. So the 3 meetings from last year all had their different flavor in them, and we'll see if any of it really carries over, because realistically, hardly anybody that played in that game of significant importance will be on the court tonight. There will be a few, but so much turnover. Both guys both DJs in Burns and Horn are gone for NC State, and obviously we know Syracuse's roster has turned over significantly since then. The main thing I think to watch out for of potential carryover from last year is this, and that's Chris Bell. Yeah, he had the one big game where he had 8 threes, but Chris Bell against NC State last year was 14 of 21 from 3. 14 of 21 from 3. Stunning shooting numbers. Yeah, he was 8 of 10 in the one game, but 3 of 6 in the other and 3 of 5 in the other. Like, he was fantastic shooting the 3 against NC State last year. I'm sure the Wolfpack and NC State will remember that not so fondly in their scout. I'm sure they'll be well aware of Chris Bell. Chris is also coming off his best game of the season from last game out against Pittsburgh, in which he made 7 threes. The Orange are going to need Bell tonight, it feels like. The puzzle pieces are fitting in a way where, okay, Chris Bell is going to need to get it going a little bit. Like, can he get it going a little bit? We'll see tonight. But that feels like, based on what happened last year, based on what happened last week, based on where things are at with Syracuse right now, a lot's on JJ, a lot's on Lampkin. Who's going to be the third guy? It seems clear the answer should be Bell tonight. We all know our histories. Whenever the answer should have been Bell over the recent years, we have had a wide variety of in-game responses and such. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes tonight, but I think Bell's going to be of significant interest tonight in how this all plays out and what should be. I don't know if it's going to be the best played game. Again, these teams are 5-11 and 4-12 in the league. That tells you a tale. They're both 11 and 16 overall. But I think it's going to be a game where the team should be desperate for the win tonight. Both should be desperate for the win tonight, and it feels like it's going to be close. We'll get more into that when we come back. Still time to sneak in a call if you'd like at 315-437-7644. Keys to the game and our final thoughts after this here on our Burdick pregame coverage today. It's Cuse Sports Talk and ESPN Radio. I like the Scores app. What's the app called on my phone? I use the Score app. $14. I had him making 5 threes, which with him could easily be 15. Yeah, this game is basically a pick 'em. Some places pick 'em, some places NC State 1.5, some places Cuse 1.5. I mean, that's a decent game for him. You'll take, like, if you tell me that he's going to do that, you take it. Like, I know he had 7 threes last game, but it wasn't like one of those, it was spread out. It wasn't like a holy crap game. It would be nice if he had a barrage in him once this season. Yeah, there's going to be nobody there, is there, T-Takes? Yeah, it's going to be hard to pick that up to a big crowd in the next 15 minutes. How's the student section, T-Takes? What are the students looking like? I mean, it is the biggest bubble game in the history of ACC tournament. So I think a court storming could be warranted. Bananas. Pregame pesto. Hold the phone, Supercat. I didn't know pregame pesto was an option. You'd wish the students would show for a game like this. Like, what do you, come on. What are you guys doing? Like, you just walk over there. You have basil from your garden right now, Supercat? Where are you? I think I have some frozen pesto I made still in the freezer. The batch and freeze. Yeah, I think I stumbled upon some in the freezer the other day. I'm not sure how long it's been in there. Mike does have frozen fruit. I love me some pesto. I think so, San Diego Cuse. I believe that is the thought.
This is the Burdick Ford and Burdick Toyota pregame show.
That it is. Last few minutes with you here this evening as we get you ready for the old ball game here tonight between Syracuse and NC State. We are a little bit more than 10 minutes away from the opening tip here today between the Orange and the Wolfpack. We'll see how tonight follows up three kind of crazy games. They were all crazy in their own right last year, that between Syracuse and the Wolfpack. And it's two teams, like the winner of this game. If Syracuse wins this game, they'll be 2 games in front of NC State in the standings with a tiebreak in the pocket. So you feel good about that. Syracuse loses tonight. NC State will have 5 wins in the league. Syracuse will have 5 wins in the league. Cal, at the moment, has 5 wins in the league. Tie breaks will start getting wonky. There's going to be a lot going on. We're getting reports from the Dome that we were wondering what the atmosphere is going to be like. Yeah. There are not a lot of people in the building currently, be it in the student section. There's apparently a bunch of people dressed like bananas. So, you know, that. Or in the not student section. So, yeah, we'll see how that goes. Starting lineups in for tonight. Paul McNeil, we mentioned the freshman for NC State, who's been hot of late. He's averaging 13 a game over the last 4. Top 100 recruit coming into his own. In the starting lineup tonight is McNeil, along with John Trez Styles and Jaden Taylor. Michael O'Connell, one of their three-point threats, and Ben Middlebrooks will get the start in the middle for NC State. That means Brandon Huntley Hatfield, you remember him from Louisville last year, will come off the bench. I think they were hoping that Middlebrooks and Huntley Hatfield will be able to play together. That has not been the case. It's been one or the other at the center spot this year. Same starting lineup as the last couple games here for the Orange ever since Elijah Moore's injury. The guards, Jaquan Carlos and J.J. Starling. The forwards, Lucas Taylor and Jair Davis, and Eddie Lampkin gets the start in the middle for the Orange tonight. So no surprises in the Orange starting lineup. Again, to rehash our injury report brought to you by Harding and Mazzotti, Elijah Moore will be a no-go now for what is the third straight game for the Orange freshman guard. And we obviously know the other freshman, Donnie Freeman, is already out for the season with the surgery from now a little bit more than a week ago. Well, 2 weeks ago, I believe, at this point, going back for Freeman. I think that was 2 Fridays ago? Week and a half ago. Yeah, let's go with that. That's when Donnie had the surgery. Stripes tonight. Who do we got in the officiating crew? Bill Covington Jr., Tony Henderson, and Justin Porterfield will be the 3 referees that you will be watching and listening to tonight. Keys to the game. Well, I still don't know how to unpack this one. Syracuse is 8-0 this season as a home favorite. Is Syracuse the favorite right now? Usually this is an easier question to answer. Syracuse opened as a 1.5-point favorite. Right now, Bet 365, Syracuse 1-point dog. Right now, I don't know what site that is. Syracuse is a 1.5-point favorite. Right now on DraftKings, Syracuse a 1.5-point dog. Right now on Caesars, the game is Pick'em. Right now on ESPN Bet. Well, this is wild. On ESPN Bet, Syracuse was a 1.5-point dog when we talked about it an hour and a half ago. Right now on ESPN Bet, Syracuse is a 1.5-point favorite. What is going on? Syracuse is a 1.5-point favorite on FanDuel. On Bally, you can't bet it. On Bet Rivers, Syracuse is a 1.5-point favorite. So this game is all over the line. I mean, basically, it's a pick'em. It's a pick'em right now. So, well, I don't know what that means in regards to the game. Perhaps more importantly than the betting line is NC State on the road. The game is in the Dome. NC State is 0-8 on the road this season. They're probably going to need to get a road game if they want to get to the ACC tournament, which is not far from home in Charlotte. They are 0-8 on the road, so we'll see what that goes. Turnovers. Now, this could define the game tonight. Syracuse is the second worst turnover team in the league. NC State is the second best turnover team in the league tonight. When the Orange lose the turnover battle this season, their record is horrendous. So can Syracuse keep that close and do something with it tonight? That'll be something significant to keep an eye on. It's a coin flip kind of game. I got the final tonight is 77-75 Cuse. I think this is coming down to the end, the nitty-gritty tonight. Winner likely in the ACC tournament, loser likely out, or it certainly very muddies the water if Syracuse loses this game tonight, still with 3 games remaining after it, but a hugely important game as far as if one of these teams is going to make the ACC tournament. First year, not everybody will make the ACC tournament since Syracuse has been a part of the league. Anyway, coverage options for you tonight. You can listen to the game, of course, as always, on TK99 and our AM signal, ESPN 1200. Matt Park, Jim Saddle, and Paulie there pushing, hopefully, the right buttons for that game. TV coverage, ESPNU. They are wrapping up cheerleading on ESPNU right now. Basketball will be coming shortly with Mike Monaco and Chris Spatola. Don't let the fact that he is Coach K's son-in-law sully him. Chris is good, people. Post game, get back right here because it could be a wild one today. Tim Leonard's got it for you with Atan and Devo. Full Adrian Autry post game press conference, of course, and your calls. We'll see what everyone's mood is after the game. I'll be with you tomorrow right here, 4 o'clock to discuss on Cuse Sports Talk and ESPN Radio.
The Sports Show with Cody Mack.
The team that surprisingly